I heard you're a writer. Yes. I heard you were a troublemaker in school. Yes. Then how did you go from a troublemaker to a writer? In a French-style restaurant, romantic and soothing jazz music played softly. Through the restaurant's windows, one could see swaying plane trees and pedestrians hurrying by under the flashing neon lights of the night. This was the seventh question the woman opposite Chengxing had asked since he sat down. If it weren't for the woman's fairly attractive appearance, Chengxing would have already gotten up and left. "Can I ask something else?" Chengxing asked. The woman shook her head and said, "I'm more curious about this question." "I'm sorry, I can't answer that question," Chengxing said. The woman's smile faded, and she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, saying softly, "Childbirth is painful. I don't want to have children. So I don't want to get married either. This blind date was forced upon me by my parents," she added. Chengxing smiled and said, "I didn't want to get married either. I was forced into this by my parents." "That's good." She breathed a sigh of relief. The two remained silent, the atmosphere somewhat awkward. Suddenly they both glanced at their watches and said almost simultaneously, "It's getting late. I have some things to do, so I'll be leaving now." They paused, then smiled at each other. "This meal is on me," the woman said. "All right. It's not right for the woman to pay on a blind date." Chengxing gestured for the waiter and paid the bill first. The woman glanced at Chengxing and then smiled. "Actually, even if we don't become a couple, we can still exchange contact information and be friends." Chengxing stood up, waved his hand and smiled. "No need, I really do have something to do. A few high school classmates have organized a dinner party. I have to go." After saying that, Chengxing got up and left. The woman stared blankly at Chengxing's departing figure. After leaving the Western restaurant, Chengxing stretched and then called Zhou Yuan. "Hey, Zhou Yuan, has it started yet?" Chengxing asked. "They just arrived." "What, are you coming, great writer? Weren't you going on a blind date tonight? Aunt Chen said the blind date she's introducing you tonight is quite good-looking, and from a good family." Zhou Yuan laughed. "It's over," Chengxing said. "Ah, so fast?" Zhou Yuan exclaimed in surprise. "It's just a blind date. How long can it take?" "Okay, Zhou Yuan, send me the address via WeChat. I'm coming right now," Chengxing said, then hung up the phone. Not long after, Zhou Yuan shared his location on WeChat, and Chengxing hailed a taxi and rushed over. "The great writer is here. Please, have a seat." Zhou Yuan stood up and greeted Chengxing with a smile as he entered. They weren't the only ones who stood up. The others at the table did too. There were about a dozen men and women. Chengxing glanced at them. Some he didn't recognize, but others were familiar, mostly his high school classmates. Chengxing sat down next to Zhou Yuan. Facing his classmate, who was now doing well and had become a writer, many people came over to exchange pleasantries and offer toasts. After exchanging greetings, Chengxing picked up his glass and drank with them. Then everyone began to drink and chat. We're all 30 years old now, and it's a class reunion, so the conversation inevitably turns to our student days. And the stories of our youth are endless, so the more we talk, the more drinks we end up having. The more they talked, the more stories they told. Does the great writer Cheng still remember me? After a few rounds of drinks, a woman in a pink dress with bright lip gloss approached, carrying a wine glass. She leaned against Chengxing's chair, bent down, and asked, with a smile. Through the low-cut V-neck of her dress, Chengxing caught a glimpse of white. He glanced at her, then looked away, raised his glass to hers and said with a smile, Wang Yan. Hehehe, you actually remember me. She downed her glass of red wine in one gulp, then smiled charmingly, saying, But you remember me? Probably because I was very close to Chen Qing back then, and we were inseparable. She laughed. Great writer Chung, you were so devoted to Chen Qing back then, from junior high to high school, a full 6 years. I saw it all. It's a pity Chen Qing had no taste. She missed out on you. You can't say that. Actually, Chen Qing is doing quite well now. The fact that Cheng Xing and Chen Qing didn't end up together back then is just a matter of fate, a man wearing glasses suddenly said.
Actually, back in high school, I knew Cheng Xing and Chen Qing wouldn't end up together, a girl named Zhao Jing suddenly said. During the second semester of our senior year, Cheng Xing and Chen Qing's relationship was the talk of the town, wasn't it? I secretly asked Chen Qing if she and Cheng Xing were dating, but she said Cheng Xing was just a hoodlum. Who would like him? That's when I knew they wouldn't be together. Everyone was surprised and sighed. Back then, they all thought Cheng Xing and Chen Qing were a couple, since Cheng Xing was the boy Chen Qing was closest to. I never expected something like that to happen. Honestly, we were so close back then, and she never told me. I really thought she was with Cheng Xing. Wang Yan laughed. All right, it's all in the past. Let's drink, Zhou Yuan suddenly said. Everyone knew about Cheng Xing's pursuit of Chen Qing back in high school. Zhou Yuan, fearing that mentioning Chen Qing would remind Cheng Xing of the past and make him uncomfortable, raised his glass to smooth things over. What Zhou Yuan didn't know was that even after so many years, hearing that name again stirred no emotion in Cheng Xing. In fact, Cheng Xing had seen her at Ancheng No. 1 High School's anniversary celebration a few years ago. She was still beautiful, but the person who left the deepest impression on Cheng Xing at that school anniversary celebration wasn't her, but another girl in his class. I once saw a quote online. Everyone encounters someone who dazzles them throughout their youth during their school years. If we had such a person in our high school days, who do you think it would be? Deng Kai, sitting next to Zhou Yuan, suddenly asked with a smile. I think it's Chen Qing. No, I think it's Li Yan from the next class. I think it's Li Zi from the second year of high school. Someone suddenly said. Who? Everyone asked. Zhang Luxi, he said. Everyone fell silent. Her, indeed. Zhou Yuan sighed. If we're talking about dazzling, then it really is her. Whether it's Chen Qing or Li Yan, we could interact with them to some extent, and we could talk and joke with them. But Zhang Luxi, I don't think I ever said a single word to her throughout my entire senior year of high school, Deng Kai said. If there were someone in our class whom we'd barely spoken to, we'd probably forget them long ago after all these years. But only Zhang Luxi has that ability, making it incredibly difficult for anyone who's met her to forget her, said Sun Li, sitting opposite Zhou Yuan. Sun Li, you're married now. Aren't you afraid your wife will find out? Zhou Yuan said with a smile. Just telling the truth. Besides, she's not here. Sun Li added with a laugh. Don't pretend, kid. Back when she asked you to collect your homework, you blushed so much you didn't dare lift your head. It's just a pity. Such a good person. How could she have become a nun and become a Buddhist, saying she'd never get married and would become a lay Buddhist to devote herself to studying Buddhism? Sighed a female classmate named Li Li. What? Zhang Luxi became a nun? Deng Kai exclaimed in surprise. This news was absolutely explosive for Deng Kai. Huh? You didn't know? This news spread last year, around this time last summer, when Zhang Luxi announced her conversion to Buddhism, becoming a lay Buddhist with her hair still intact, Zhou Yuandao said. Really? Deng Kai scratched his head, still a little incredulous. It really is. What kind of 2G network are you using? Her becoming a nun was trending on Douyin last year, Zhou Yuandao said. I'd heard she was a Buddhist before, but I never thought she'd actually become a nun, Dong Kai said. We were shocked when we first found out. Last year, she was at the peak of her career. The female boss of Shenli was grooming her as her successor, taking her to almost every event. Who knew she would announce her resignation from Shenli, and then her decision to become a nun? Li Li said. If she hadn't resigned from Shenli, or had chosen to become a nun, she might have become the most famous person to emerge from Ancheng in no time, Wang Yan said with envy. Yes, to step down from such a position at a time like this, to announce her resignation from Shenli and her decision to become a nun, it takes so much willpower and so much fame and fortune to let go of. She really takes all of that lightly, Dong Kai exclaimed. It's just a pity she didn't get married, someone said. Even now, the news of Zhang Luxi becoming a nun still evokes sighs and regrets. Such a girl who had captivated their entire youth ultimately chose to become a nun. How could they not feel sorry for her? So she's ultimately from a different world than us. But Chengxing, didn't you go to the school anniversary celebration last time? I heard Zhang Luxi went too. Did you get to talk to her? Speaking of which, we haven't seen her since graduating high school, Sun Li asked. No, Chengxing shook his head. 3 years ago, at the school's anniversary celebration, the school invited many alumni. Of the 5 invited from his graduating class, 3 were from his own class, Chengxing, Zhang Luxi, and Chen Qing. Seeing Chen Qing again no longer stirred anything in Chengxing. However, seeing Zhang Luxi again brought back many memories for him. Chengxing's family wasn't poor during his student days. In fact, they were considered upper middle class in Ancheng. However, in 2017, a tragedy struck his family. Misfortune never comes singly. The following year, Chengxing's mother was hospitalized due to overwork. At that time, the family urgently needed money for surgery. Chengxing borrowed from many people, but still couldn't raise the final 100,000 yuan. His former close friends had already distanced themselves after his family's misfortune and were unwilling to lend him money. When his friends wouldn't lend him money, Chengxing could only turn to his classmates. But apart from Zhou Yuan, who lent him the 20,000 yuan he'd saved from 2 years of part-time work, none of his close high school friends would lend him any, including Chen Qing. Chengxing and Chen Qing maintained contact while Chen Qing was in university, but their contact dwindled after graduation. When Chengxing asked Chen Qing for money, she said 100,000 yuan was too much, but she could lend him 10,000 or 20,000 yuan. That was their last conversation in the following years. Then, 3 years ago, at the school anniversary celebration, Chen Qing came over to greet him, and they chatted for a while, laughing and talking. But Chengxing had long forgotten what they talked about. After failing to borrow money from Chen Qing, Chengxing had borrowed from almost everyone he could. When he was almost in despair, Chengxing contacted someone he thought would be the least likely to lend him money. That person was Zhang Luxi. In high school, Chengxing was the biggest troublemaker in school. Besides studying hard, there was nothing he wouldn't do. Zhang Luxi, as the class monitor, naturally hated people like Chengxing the most. Fighting with students from other schools, writing love letters, having early romantic relationships, smoking and drinking. None of these things, in Zhang Luxi's view, were things students shouldn't do. But Chengxing did them all. Therefore, Chengxing naturally didn't think someone like him could borrow money from Zhang Luxi. Moreover, Zhang Luxi's family wasn't well off. Unlike Chen Qing, who received 10 or 20,000 yuan a month in pocket money while in university, Zhang Luxi transferred the money that very evening after Chengxing showed her her medical records. Chengxing even specifically asked Zhang Luxi why she lent him the money. In the first 2 years after graduating from university, Zhang Luxi's salary wasn't much. This 100,000 yuan was likely a large portion of her savings. She was working in Haicheng at the time, where housing prices and the cost of living were quite high. Cheng Xing couldn't understand why someone like Cheng Xing would use so much of his savings to help him. Zhang Luxi's answer to Cheng Xing was simple. When Sun Qi and her gang bullied me, you helped me. Let's settle this score, and we'll be even. Upon hearing this answer, Cheng Xing fell silent. He hadn't expected that Zhang Luxi would help him, using her savings from 2 years of work, simply because of this small matter. If this counts as helping, then Cheng Xing helped countless people during his school years. In his class, whenever someone was bullied by students from other classes or schools, Cheng Xing would stand up for them. Because of his adolescent rebellion, he felt that since he was the biggest troublemaker in the school, his classmates shouldn't be bullied by outsiders. He had gotten into many fights out of jealousy or to seek justice for Chen Qing. Actually, he remembered the time he helped Zhang Luxi, but that didn't really count as helping. Cheng Xing knew beforehand that Sun Qi was going to bully Zhang Luxi that night, and since Chen Qing was involved, he wouldn't have interfered because of Chen Qing. However, he left school late that day and witnessed Zhang Luxi being bullied. The girl's stubborn and defiant appearance, standing in the wind and rain, left a deep impression on Cheng Xing. Perhaps not wanting this aloof and ethereal girl to leave behind a somewhat unpleasant memory as graduation approached, Cheng Xing ultimately stepped in to help her. His last encounter with Zhang Luxi was 3 years ago at the school anniversary celebration. His last conversation with Zhang Luxi was 6 years ago when she offered him help in his time of need. But it was these 2 instances that kept her figure etched in Cheng Xing's memory for many years. He would never forget the words, "When Sun Qi and the others bullied me, you helped me. We'll repay you in kind, and we'll be even." Come on, Brother Cheng, back in high school, because you were there. We were never bullied by anyone from other classes. For that alone, I have to toast you. Cheers, Sun Li said, downing his drink in one gulp. The others also raised their glasses to toast Cheng Xing. Cheng Xing, meanwhile, accepted the toasts without hesitation. For some reason, Cheng Xing, who hadn't been drunk in a long time, just wanted to get completely drunk and forget about the sorrow of parting. When the dinner ended, everyone was drunk. "Brother Cheng, do you need me to help you?" Zhou Yuan asked. "No need. You guys go ahead," Cheng Xing said. Zhou Yuan had come with his girlfriend, and he himself was being helped by her. How could Cheng Xing let him help? "It's okay, Zhou Yuan. You guys go ahead. I'll help you," Wang Yan said, helping Cheng Xing up. Cheng Xing was a little dizzy and couldn't even recognize who was next to him, only able to smell a fragrant aroma. When they got downstairs and the wind cleared his head a bit, he realized it was Wang Yan supporting him. Without batting an eye, Cheng Xing dodged Wang Yan's bright red lips that were about to press against his own. He hailed a taxi, got in, closed the door, fastened his seatbelt, and said to Wang Yan through the window, "It's getting late. Go home early." Watching the taxi disappear from sight, Wang Yan pouted and sighed. After the taxi stopped in the neighborhood, Cheng Xing walked wearily home. Once home, Cheng Xing collapsed onto the sofa. He turned on the air conditioner, then opened Douyin, TikTok, scrolling through it casually. Finally, Cheng Xing's gaze settled on a video. It was almost September, and middle schools across the country had already started. This was a welcome party for a certain experimental high school. The girl in the video wore a red hat, an orange shirt, and a gray plaid skirt. Her slender, fair legs were bare, adorned only with white socks and white sneakers. The girl wore glasses, and 2 neatly braided pigtails hung down to her chest. At that moment, Cheng Xing suddenly saw a resemblance to Zhang Luxi in her. It was as if he had returned to their high school graduation party that year. That day, Zhang Luxi's ponytail swayed gently as she performed a song on stage. However, the girl in the video wasn't as pretty as Zhang Luxi, but the youthful energy of the campus stage, the girl's pure and innocent appearance, and her clear, soothing voice suddenly captivated Cheng Xing. "I will slowly grow up, under the sun, moon, and stars, occasionally talking to the grass and trees. Then, riding the wind, I will scatter to the ends of the earth, falling into the soil to take root and sprout. You must wait for me in the fleeting time, even though life may bring many struggles. I will arrive under the moonlight, after dawn, and before sunset. The lyrics are beautiful, and the singing is beautiful too. As Chengxing listened, a wave of weariness washed over him, and he gradually drifted off to sleep. Chengxing felt a blinding light, as if someone had placed a several thousand-watt light bulb in front of his eyes. He opened his eyes and saw a fiery red sun hanging in the sky, scorching him. His eyes stung, and Chengxing squinted, shifting his gaze. He then realized he was holding a basketball, and there was a basketball hoop nearby. This basketball court looked strangely familiar. Looking further, he saw Zhou Yuan, Sun Li, and others. However, they all looked younger, like 17 or 18-year-olds. He could vaguely hear Zhou Yuan shouting, "Brother Cheng, shoot! Shoot!" Chengxing instinctively threw the basketball. With a thud, the basketball hit the ground, but didn't even touch the rim. "Brother Cheng, what's wrong today? You can't even touch the rim when you're so close," Sun Li asked, puzzled. Chengxing was very good at basketball, especially shooting. The shot was less than a meter from the rim. If he missed, that would be one thing. Everyone makes mistakes. But he didn't even touch the rim. That's really too much. It's nothing like Chengxing's usual performance. It's probably because of the love letter he wrote to Chen Qing after school this morning. Chen Qing has probably seen it by now, Zhou Yuan said with a smile. His head still throbbed, but the scene before him felt incredibly real. He could feel the intense heat of the sunlight on his skin, and he noticed that these youthful versions of Zhou Yuan and Sun Li were all so lifelike and vivid. He had dreamt many times of returning to his high school days, but none of these dreams felt as real as this. Just as Chengxing was still lost in thought, the basketball court suddenly became lively. Everyone else who had been playing basketball rushed over. Chengxing instinctively turned around and saw 3 girls, around 17 or 18 years old, walking towards him. The girl in the lead wore a light blue floral dress, her long black hair tied back in a ponytail. Her smooth, fair legs appeared even whiter in the sunlight. The girl wore white canvas shoes, and she walked up to Chengxing with a hint of anger on her face. "Chengxing, explain to everyone what this love letter means. Now everyone thinks we're dating. I told you before, I won't date before university. Don't write me anything like this again. I won't agree to it." She took out a piece of paper and looked up at Chengxing, questioning him. The girl was beautiful, with a delicate, fair face. Because of the heat and her hurried walk, her fair cheeks were slightly flushed. Her beautiful eyes held a hint of anger as she looked at Chengxing arrogantly. Chengxing was familiar with this girl. Chen Qing, the girl Chengxing had pursued from junior high to high school. As for the 2 girls beside her, one was Wang Yan and the other was Li Dan. Chengxing frowned. Why did this world feel so real? At first he thought he was dreaming, but dreams weren't like this. Because of Li Dan, whom he hadn't seen for a long time since graduating high school, her face was now so clear, so identical to the Li Dan he remembered from high school. Chengxing bent down and picked up the basketball from the ground. He touched the basketball in his hand, and Chengxing suddenly had a bold guess. Because the basketball had a real tactile feel, he tossed the basketball to Zhou Yuan and said, "Zhou Yuan, throw me the basketball." "Huh? Okay, Brother Cheng." Zhou Yuan didn't know what Chengxing meant by asking him to throw the basketball in this situation, but he always obeyed Chengxing's orders. Zhou Yuan threw the basketball back to Chengxing. This time, however, Chengxing didn't catch it with his hands. Instead, the basketball hit him squarely. Feeling the real pain of the basketball hitting him, a smile appeared on Chengxing's lips. 24. His bold guess wasn't wrong. Perhaps it was because he had dreamt too many scenes from his high school days in the dead of night in recent years. Heaven had sent him to the basketball court of his senior year 13 years ago, the dilapidated basketball court, 16 or 17-year-old Zhou Yuan, and 17-year-old Chen Qing, holding that love letter, rejecting his confession on the school basketball court. This moment was one that Chengxing would never forget in his memory. He remembered the exact time of that day, September 6th, 2010, Monday. "You want an explanation, right?" Chengxing asked, smiling as he looked down at Chen Qing. Chen Qing was taken aback. Looking at Chengxing, who was looking down at her with a smile, she felt that he was different from before, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. However, whatever the change, Chen Qing wanted Chengxing to explain himself in front of everyone today. Early dating was forbidden at Ancheng No. 1 High School. If he didn't explain himself, the rumors would reach the teachers, then her parents, and she would inevitably get a lecture. Besides, she and Chengxing had no relationship, and the more the rumors spread, the worse it would be for her. Yes, an explanation is better for everyone. Our priority right now should be studying. We can talk about anything else in college. Chen Qing nodded. Chengxing had been noticing a figure for a long time. The figure who, despite being rumored to come from a poor family, could make everyone at the school feel ashamed. She was like a veil of mist, a fairy who had accidentally fallen from heaven to wander the mortal realm, experiencing its ups and downs and worldly splendor before ascending to heaven again, leaving only faint traces of her presence in this world. She seemed forever shrouded in a thin veil, unfathomable, shrouded in mystery and enigma. If she doesn't try to understand, doesn't try to get to know him, will her life's trajectory be the same as her previous one, leaving only traces of her presence at Ancheng No. 1 High School before disappearing without a trace and entering a monastery? Chengxing took Chen Qing's love letter. Then he walked towards the back of the crowd. As Chengxing walked, the students on both sides automatically made way for him. No longer blocked by the crowd, the girl, with her cool and aloof demeanor, whose stunning beauty was still undeniable even with glasses, appeared in everyone's sight. She was very quiet, as if the people around her were irrelevant to her. "There's self-study later. The teacher wants you to go back." She looked at Chengxing and said quietly, then turned to leave. "Please wait a moment." Chengxing suddenly called out to her. The girl turned around and looked at him with confusion. Chengxing, holding the love letter in his hand, smiled at the crowd around him and said, "Didn't Chen Qing just ask me to give her an explanation? This love letter was indeed written by me, but the person I wanted to give it to wasn't her, but Zhang Luxi."
Seeing this reaction, everyone naturally followed suit. It had only been a few days since the start of the new semester at No. 1 High School, and such a juicy piece of gossip was a rare treat. Nobody wanted to sit in a stuffy classroom on a hot day. The way things unfolded was beyond their expectations, but this dramatic turn of events which they never anticipated left everyone deeply unsettled. They had come to the right place at the basketball court. They had gotten the gossip they wanted. After realizing what had happened, everyone rushed impatiently towards their respective classrooms. This gossip, this juicy tidbit, was too much to swallow. They desperately wanted to share it. Zhang Luxi glanced at the love letter in her hand, then left. On the once bustling basketball court, only Chen Qing, Wang Yan, and Li Dan remained. "What does Chengxing mean by this?" Li Dan asked in surprise. "What else could it mean? He's just angry and embarrassed after being rejected. He was rejected in public by our Miss Chen, and he lost face, so he had to find a way to retaliate and save face." Wang Yan chuckled. "But this way of saving face is really bad." "Oh, I see." Li Dan laughed. "But Chengxing is really quite good. He's been pursuing our Qing for so many years, and he's quite handsome, and his family is well off. It's just that his grades are a bit low. Isn't our Miss Qingjing going to consider him?" "What are you talking about? We're still just students. Besides, our school forbids early relationships," Chen Qing said with a smile after hearing Wang Yan's explanation. "They say early relationships are forbidden, but aren't people dating in private? Just in our class alone, there are more than a handful of people with boyfriends, Li Dan said. That includes you, right, you little vixen? Don't think I don't know. Are you dating Zhang Qi from another school? Chen Qing said, reaching out to tickle Li Dan. Hey, it's just dating. How does that make her a little slut? Wang Yan dated someone back in middle school. Why didn't you call her a little slut then? Miss Chen, you're so unfair. Don't tickle me anymore or I'll tickle you. Li Dan laughed as she ran. The girl's silvery voice mingled with the autumn cicadas chirping. In this place called the campus, a word called youth was formed. Chung walked very slowly. Between the basketball court and their school building, there was a tree-lined avenue. The avenue was lined with sycamore trees. Often when watching youth-themed movies and reading novels, whenever sycamore trees appeared in a scene, Chung Xing would wonder if everyone's school days included such a tree-lined avenue. Chung Xing looked up, and through the lush foliage he could see the bright sunlight. This wasn't 2023, that fleeting era that made Chung Xing feel somewhat old. This was 2010, a decade where time seemed to move slowly and the sunlight was still dazzling. In this era, in this time, those born in the 80s were in their prime, and those born in the 90s were still teenagers. Chung Xing picked up a fallen leaf from the road, tracing its veins. Reaching the end of the road, a bright smile spread across Chung Xing's face. Hello, 2010! Bathed in the early autumn sunlight, Chung Xing familiarly turned down the corridor of the teaching building, then climbed step by step up the stairs to his most familiar classroom, Class 3 of Senior 3. Stepping into the classroom, those unfamiliar faces he had almost forgotten gradually became familiar again, slowly matching the faces that had been forgotten for over a decade. Chung Xing even remembered many of their names. Sun Ping, why are you staring at me like that? Chung Xing smiled and asked a girl in the front row who had been watching him. They're all watching, Sun Ping pointed to the person next to her. You look prettier now. Eat less junk food later, Chung Xing said, smiling at her. Oh. Sun Ping's ears turned red, and she immediately lowered her head. Chung Xing smiled. Sun Ping was quite thin in high school, but she gained weight later. After graduating from university, she became a teacher at the #1 high school. A few years ago, Chung Xing had seen her once at the school's anniversary celebration. At the gathering before his rebirth, Zhou Yuan had originally planned to invite her, but school had just started, and she, as the homeroom teacher, was too busy to attend, so he gave up. Time flies, several seasons have passed. Everyone is at their most youthful and radiant age. This feeling is wonderful. Chung Xing sat down in his seat. His grades weren't good, so he could only sit in the last row of the class. On his desk lay the new books that had just been distributed after the start of the semester. Of course, these new books were all mainly review materials. Chung Xing opened the books, and a pleasant scent of books filled the air.
Every time new books were distributed at the start of the school year, Chung Xing liked to gently inhale their fragrance. The scent of new books was truly delightful. It was a pity that by senior year, textbooks were no longer distributed. The scent of the Chinese textbook was the best among all the textbooks. Chung Xing flipped through the materials. He could understand some of the Chinese materials, but subjects like math and chemistry were like reading gibberish. While Chung Xing was reviewing the materials, Zhou Yuan walked in from outside. "Brother Chung, you're amazing." Zhou Yuan gave Chung Xing a thumbs up, saying, "What was originally a rather embarrassing situation has now turned into something painful for Chen Qing." Zhou Yuan continued, "Brother Chung, don't be sad. I think Chen Qing still likes you, but she's afraid of the gossip at school and the teachers and her parents finding out, so she's rejecting you. Look, in the past 2 years, besides you, which other boy has been so close to Chen Qing?" Zhou Yuan, seeing Chung Xing constantly flipping through his books, assumed he was upset or had suffered some kind of shock, and offered words of comfort. "Okay, I'm not upset," Chung Xing smiled, closing the materials in his hand, and then asked, "Do you have any textbooks for the first and second years of high school Chinese? Can I borrow them?" Besides the newly issued review materials, all of Chengxing's textbooks from the first and second years of high school were gone. Perhaps a typical symptom of a poor student is that the semester isn't even over yet, and the textbooks are already gone. Clearly, Chengxing belonged to that category. "Brother Cheng, are you all right?" Zhou Yuan asked, stunned. Chengxing wanted to borrow a book from him. Was this some kind of miracle? "You didn't lose all yours too, did you?" Chengxing asked. "No, I can't find the first and second semester textbooks, but I still have the second semester textbooks," Zhou Yuan said, handing him a tattered second semester Chinese textbook from his drawer. Chengxing took it and casually flipped through it. He saw that Zhou Yuan had left a classic drawing on almost every page, including a particularly obscene female nude art piece. Chengxing glanced at him, but the guy shamelessly asked, "How is it? Pretty, right?" Chengxing ignored him and was about to start reading when a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. The figure was silent. Chengxing didn't realize someone was there until the light on the textbook dimmed. Chengxing looked up and saw Zhang Luxi, wearing glasses, holding the love letter, standing quietly in front of him. Chengxing instinctively wanted to close the book, but he still noticed the girl's ears turning red. This was the first time Chengxing had observed Zhang Luxi so closely. Her face was small, only the size of a palm. Her hair was styled in the classic high ponytail with bangs, and 2 strands of hair fell beside her delicate ears, framing her slightly chubby cheeks. Because of the close proximity, Chengxing realized just how exquisite Zhang Luxi's face was. In his previous life, Chengxing had little interaction with Zhang Luxi. She wore glasses, and her already small face, combined with the long hair framing her face, made it difficult to see her true features. Zhang Luxi's personality was also aloof. Because of this aloofness, she had few friends at school, and thus often went to and from school alone. In Ancheng No. 1 High School, she seemed to exist in her own world. Before the second semester of her junior year, the students only knew that she had excellent grades and was extremely difficult to get along with. But no matter how low-key or withdrawn a person is, in time, those beauties that can amaze youth and time will eventually be discovered. 2 months before summer vacation in the second semester of her junior year, Zhang Luxi walked into the classroom carrying books. The early summer breeze ruffled 2 strands of her long hair, and without those strands covering her face, Zhang Luxi's stunning beauty was revealed to everyone for the first time. The breeze not only lifted Zhang Luxi's hair, but also stunned many students who were momentarily speechless. That was probably one of the most unforgettable moments of their student days. This was also one of Chengxing's greatest regrets in later life. While many people later described to him how stunning the sunlight, the breeze, and Zhang Luxi were, he had skipped class that day to play games at an internet cafe outside the school, thus missing the best and only chance to see Zhang Luxi's true face. In the time that followed, Chengxing and Zhang Luxi had no further contact, and he rarely saw the girl's true face again. At the high school graduation party, Chengxing, being very tall, stood at the back. When he borrowed money from Zhang Luxi in his later life, they communicated via QQ. Chengxing didn't even have her phone number. After giving her the hospital certificate and bank account number, she simply replied, "Okay," and transferred the money that evening. At the last school anniversary celebration, Chengxing only caught a fleeting glimpse from a distance. So, reborn, without so many reservations and concerns, and knowing the trajectory of everything that would unfold, Chengxing handed the love letter he had given to Chen Qing, thus successfully enjoying this scene alone. No matter how shrouded in mist Zhang Luxi was, or how great her achievements were in her later life, at least for now, she was just a high school senior at Ancheng No. 1 High School. Zhang Luxi was truly beautiful. Even with glasses, her beauty was undeniable. A delicate, high-bridged nose, naturally red lips, and skin as smooth and white as jade. She stood there quietly, possessing both the charm of a woman from Jiangnan and the refined elegance of a northern woman, enhanced by a hint of stubbornness and coldness flickering in her calm eyes. Zhang Luxi, who had been relatively calm, suddenly felt a touch of annoyance and coldness. But quickly, her eyes returned to their usual calm. She handed over the love letter she held. "This is for you," Chengxing said without batting an eye. Zhang Luxi looked up at him and said, "Chen Qing's name is on this." Chengxing. It had been so long that he had completely forgotten that Chen Qing's name appeared many times on the love letter he had written to her. What surprised Chengxing was that Zhang Luxi had actually read it. "You actually read the contents?" Chengxing asked, somewhat astonished. He had thought that Zhang Luxi would simply throw the love letter away after receiving it, but he hadn't expected that she would not only calmly return it to him, but also read its contents. "Curious," Zhang Luxi said calmly. After speaking, Zhang Luxi placed the love letter on Chengxing's desk, then turned and left. Chengxing stared blankly for a while. This Zhang Luxi seemed to be slightly different from the one he knew. However, this slight difference was ultimately for the best. Chengxing picked up the love letter he had written and read it, to the tune of Po Zhenzi, a Song Dynasty poem written for Chen Qing to express his feelings. The stars in the sky are sparse, and the clouds are light. The night is cold, and the wind is clear on earth. A long song startles the white crane. The 3 repetitions of Yang Guan are most moving. The sun is gradually brightening as we part. You wield the ink brush of Jiangnan. I wield the long spear of the northern frontier. Life's many paths lead to a life of drunken revelry, but I wish for both long and short contemplation. I only wish not to walk alone. This love letter begins with a poem by Chengxing, Po Zhenzi. The first line describes Chengxing leaving home in the morning to find it still dark, with only a few stars in the sky, and the early autumn night still somewhat chilly. In September, white cranes begin their migration from Russia to the north. Chengxing saw white cranes for the first time in Anchang, and couldn't help but sing Wang Feng's "Fly Better." Because the climax of this song requires very long notes, it can be considered a long song. Naturally, his singing startled the flock of white cranes resting by the roadside. The so-called 3 repetitions of Yangguan refers to the poem Yangguan 3 Repetitions. Yangguan 3 Repetitions is a Guqin piece. The score uses Wang Wei's Sending Yuan to Anxi as the main lyrics, extending the poem's meaning and adding verses to express the sorrow of parting. Because the entire piece is divided into 3 sections, and the original poem is repeated 3 times, it is called triple repetition, later becoming a general term for farewell songs. The last 2 lines mean that when Chengxing saw off the flock of white cranes, the sky was already fully bright. As for the second half, it is the lines where Chengxing expresses his feelings to Chen Qing. I hope that long-lasting longing can become short-lived, so that we can walk the road together from now on. Chengxing didn't feel anything when he first saw the poem he had written, but when he finished reading it and saw the lines that truly expressed his love, he felt a chill run down his spine. Even though he had experienced many storms, he couldn't help but blush. Just as Chengxing was about to crumple up the love letter in his hand and throw it in the trash after class, Zhou Yuan suddenly snatched it away, laughing, "Don't throw it away, Chengje. Let me see it. Let me see it." Chengxing felt ashamed even looking at it himself. How could he let others see it? Perhaps when he was young, he thought this love letter was exceptionally well written, but now, at 30, looking back at what he had written as a teenager, only made him more and more ashamed. Chengxing reached out to grab it back. "No, no, let me see it, let me see it," Zhou Yuan said, dodging as he tried to get away. "Chengxing, Zhou Yuan, what are you 2 doing instead of doing your homework?" Just then, a voice all too familiar rang in Chengxing's ears. Chengxing looked up and saw a middle-aged man, about 40 years old, standing in front of them. "Oh no," Chengxing sighed inwardly upon seeing the man. It was Zheng Hua, their homeroom teacher and Chinese language teacher. "What are you holding? Let me see," Zheng Hua said, frowning. Zhou Yuan pursed his lips and handed over the love letter Chengxing had written. Ancheng No. 1 High School was quite strict, and among the many substitute teachers in Class 3, the strictest was undoubtedly Zheng Hua. In his previous life, Cheng Xing was Zheng Hua's homeroom teacher for both his second and third years of high school, and Cheng Xing certainly received his fair share of beatings from Zheng Hua's small wooden stick during those 2 years. Zheng Hua carried a half-meter-long wooden stick with him almost constantly. Anyone who caused him trouble would get a few whacks on the hand. Ancheng was located in the north, and among the dozen or so cities in the province, its economic development was among the lowest. Northerners were known for their fierce and unruly nature, and northern children were mischievous from a young age. So even 10 years later, schools here still used corporal punishment. There was no other way. If teachers were all gentle and persistent like southern teachers, no student would listen to them. The level of chaos in some small northern towns during that era was unimaginable to many in later generations. If it were any other substitute teacher, Zhou Yuan probably wouldn't have handed in Cheng Xing's love letter. With other teachers, he would at most stand for a class or stand in the corridor with his book. However, Zhou Yuan dared not openly disobey Zheng Hua. Tearing up the love letter or refusing to give it to him would only result in a few beatings from Zheng Hua, which would be tolerable. But openly disobeying Zheng Hua would bring far more severe punishment. The last student who dared to talk back to Zheng Hua in class was kicked more than a dozen times in front of the entire class. Since then, no one in the class has dared to contradict him in public. Zheng Hua was known for his strictness. He always had a stern face and was rarely seen smiling. Therefore, the students privately nicknamed him Warden, implying that attending his class was no different from being in prison. Zheng Hua took the love letter from Zhou Yuan. He looked at it for a while, and his previously cold expression softened. "Does everyone want to know what Cheng Xing wrote on this paper?" Zheng Hua suddenly asked. "Teacher, I admit my mistake," Cheng Xing immediately admitted, seeing that Zheng Hua seemed about to read the love letter aloud in front of everyone. His mental age was no longer that of a teenager. Back then, he could be shameless, but not anymore. As a teenager, he was impulsive and easily agitated, doing whatever he pleased. Even if he made a mistake, he wouldn't feel ashamed. After all, he was only a teenager. There were many things he could be wrong about, many things he was allowed to be wrong about. But now, the 30-year-old Cheng Xing couldn't do that anymore. Back in high school, because of his excellent writing skills, whenever the teacher asked him to write a self-criticism, he would write a long, eloquent piece, and the teacher would always read it aloud in front of everyone, which he was proud of. Looking back at what he wrote now, Cheng Xing only felt ashamed, not impressed by the writing style. Besides, neither the self-criticism nor the love letter was anything worth reading aloud in public. Moreover, this love letter was written to someone he no longer had feelings for. If it were someone he liked, he wouldn't feel so embarrassed, because if you truly like someone, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I want to see. There's never a shortage of people in this world who want to stir things up and have some fun. And indeed, the students in the class were all very curious about what Cheng Xing wrote in his love letter to Chen Qing. However, Chen Qing, sitting in the third row, blushed. She was incredibly annoyed with Cheng Xing. It didn't write anything special, just a Song Dynasty poem. Everyone knows the title. It's Po Chen Zi. It's obvious Cheng Xing just finished writing it and hasn't had time to add the title yet. Zheng Hua finished speaking and continued. The stars are sparse, and the clouds are light in the sky. The night is cold and the wind is clear on earth. A long song startles the white crane. The 3 repetitions of Yang Guan are most moving. The day is getting brighter as we part. You hold the ink brush of Jiangnan. I hold the long spear of the northern frontier. Life has many paths. I seek to get drunk to the fullest. I only wish for long thoughts to be shorter than long thoughts. I only wish not to walk alone. After Zheng Hua finished reading, the students in the classroom fell silent. A few seconds later, exclamations of surprise rose and fell. "Chen Qing! Cheng Xing's poem is so well written." Li Dan exclaimed in astonishment. The blush on Chen Qing's face gradually faded, and she nodded, saying, "It is indeed a good poem." Could it be that Cheng Xing copied it from somewhere? After all, there are so many poems written in the ancient style of Po Zhenzi. I don't believe that someone his age could write such good lines. Wang Yun shook her head. They were both 16 or 17 years old. Wang Yun didn't believe that Cheng Xing could write such good lines. No. Chen Qing shook her head, saying, I know all the famous poems in the ancient style of Po Zhenzi, and this one isn't among them. Besides, Cheng Xing's writing has always been excellent. His Chinese compositions are almost always near perfect scores, and many of his compositions have been read aloud in class by the warden. Moreover, her face flushed again as she said this, the second half of this poem is about love. May my thoughts be long and short. May I not walk alone. Indeed, Cheng Xing is trying to drag our Miss Chen along. He, Li Dan said, covering her mouth with a laugh. What are you saying? Chen Qing scratched him, her face turning even redder. Does anyone know which poem the phrase 3 variations on Yangguan comes from? Zheng Hua suddenly asked. Chen Qing raised her hand. Zheng Hua said, Chen Qing, you tell me. Chen Qing stood up from his chair and said, It's from Wang Wei's poem, Sending Yuan to Anxi, from the Tang Dynasty. The morning rain in Weiqing lightly dusts the earth. The guest house is green with fresh willow leaves. I urge you to drink another cup of wine, for beyond Yangguan there will be no old friends. A very good answer. Please sit down, Zheng Hua said. As expected of Chen Qing, truly impressive, Li Dan praised. You know this too, Wang Yan asked in surprise. I told you to read more books, Chen Qing smiled. Zheng Hua placed the paper in his hand on Cheng Xing's desk and said, In 2001, there was a candidate in Zhang province named Zhang Xinjie. His overall grades weren't good, but that year he wrote a perfect score essay that became famous throughout the country. It was because of this famous perfect score essay that he was exceptionally admitted to Nanchang Normal University. You should have heard of that essay, Zheng Hua said. The death of the red hair, Cheng Xing said. Zheng Hua nodded and said, Use your pen and ink for good. With that, Zheng Hua turned and left the classroom. That's it? Zhou Yuan asked, bewildered. Putting aside the fact that they hadn't pursued the matter of Cheng Xing writing love letters, just the fact that they were fooling around during lunch break while everyone else was studying diligently would have earned them a few beatings in the past. In his past life, this poem wasn't as widely known as it is now. The confession was something he'd planned for days, so Cheng Xing had a sleepless night and went to school before dawn. Once there, he spent the entire morning writing the love letter. Then, at lunchtime, he put it in Chen Qing's drawer. Cheng Xing hadn't hidden his plans to confess to Chen Qing and write the love letter from anyone. So many people knew when he delivered it. Later, Chen Qing, back at school, heard the rumors, found the letter, and without even reading it, stormed to the basketball court, publicly rejected Cheng Xing's confession, and returned the letter. For Cheng Xing at that time, being publicly rejected by Chen Qing was incredibly humiliating, so he tore the letter up. Therefore, from the moment it was written to the moment it was given, in his past life, only he had ever seen it. The afternoon self-study session ended quickly. Cheng Xing flipped through his textbook, and the bell rang. He glanced at the love letter beside him. Whether in his past life or this one, there was no need to keep it. Cheng Xing crumpled the paper into a ball, walked to the trash can at the front of the classroom, and threw it in. Cheng Xing, you wrote such a beautiful poem. Why did you throw it away? A girl sitting in the first row near the trash can asked, puzzled. What words? How can you be so dense? This is a love letter Cheng Xing wrote to Chen Qing, another girl sitting next to her said irritably. Oh, doesn't Cheng Xing like Chen Qing? Why did he throw this love letter away? She asked, puzzled. How should I know? Ask him if you want to know, The girl rolled her eyes. Chengxing, why did you throw away that love letter you gave to Chen Qing? Surprisingly, Sun Ying actually asked, her voice quite loud, and the content of her question was explosive, drawing the attention of everyone in the classroom. Rejected? What's the point of keeping it? From now on, my heart is sealed shut, and I don't love anyone anymore. Chengxing laughed. Chengxing turned his head and bumped into Chen Qing, who was looking in his direction. Chengxing smiled and nodded in acknowledgement, as if to say hello. Chengxing's parents and Chen Qing's parents had a good relationship. Their families were very close. So even though he had long since lost feelings for Chen Qing, they could still be friends. But that was all. How pitiful, Sun Ying said. Pitiful? What's pitiful about it? At this stage, studying hard and making progress every day is the most important thing, Chengxing laughed. Pfft. Hearing Chengxing's words, the two girls laughed simultaneously. Sun Ying chuckled. I know your grades. Besides your slightly better Chinese, do you have any decent math, physics, or chemistry? I really don't know what you were thinking when you were divided into classes in your second year of high school. Why didn't you choose humanities, but instead chose science? What? I like science. Is that wrong? Chengxing asked with a smile. Sure. You're called Chengxing. How can you say no? The other girl laughed. Chengxing didn't continue their banter and returned to his seat. Chen Qing, Chengxing was rejected by you. How come he's not sad or upset at all? He acts like nothing happened, and even has time to joke around with other girls, Li Dan said angrily. Let him laugh it off. What does it have to do with me? Chen Qing said. Although she had already figured out the solution, she couldn't bring herself to write anything down. She thought of something. Back in their second year of high school, when they were divided into classes, Chengxing was originally supposed to go to the humanities class, but because she was in the science class, he followed her there. But it was his own choice to come. She hadn't asked him for anything. Thinking of this, Chen Qing put down her pen. Chengxing spent the entire afternoon, including evening self-study time, reading. He went through Zhou Yuan's entire Chinese textbook. He remembered many of the articles in it, but some he had long forgotten. After all, more than 10 years had passed since high school. Classic articles like Preface to the Pavilion of Prince Tang and Ode to the Red Cliff, which Chengxing particularly loved, he would remember clearly even when he was old and dying. 2 years before his rebirth, Chengxing had spent over 1,000 yuan to take the high-speed train to Tengguang Pavilion in Nanchang, where admission was free if one could recite the entire preface to the Tengguang Pavilion. He then recited the entire text, thus saving 40 yuan on the entrance fee. However, Chengxing had almost completely forgotten some passages that were rarely used or appeared in his daily life. These, he now needed to memorize them all again. By senior year of high school, most of the high school curriculum had been covered. The entire year was dedicated to continuous review. In his previous life, Chengxing's college entrance exam results weren't ideal, and he didn't continue his studies afterward. Because his family was relatively well off, Chengxing could live comfortably even without doing anything. However, this only lasted until 2017. In 2017, his parents suffered business failures and accumulated significant debt. In early 2018, his mother was hospitalized due to exhaustion from paying off debts, and Chengxing's life began to become difficult. Without Zhang Luxi's final act of kindness, the 100,000 yuan she provided, his life in his previous life would have been incredibly dark. After his mother recovered, Chengxing began working tirelessly to earn money. When he had free time, he loved browsing online forums. One night, drunk, Chengxing wrote some stories about his youth on a forum, the awkwardness of first love, the days spent hanging out with a group of brothers. The story was very realistic, and Chengxing's writing was already quite good, so the post went viral. It caught the eye of an editor at a publishing house, who compiled the stories into a book. The book sold well after its release and was soon adapted into a film or television series, grossing over 1 billion yuan and becoming the highest-grossing youth film of the year. Chengxing also became a star, but everyone's youth has its regrets.